If you've ever struggled with substance use disorder, an addiction of any kind, or you're still struggling now, or maybe you're in early recovery, this channel is designed to give you the best principles and methods for your best recovery tools and the best resources and tools to improve your life. I want to talk about a critical way that we look at relapse. We're going to see that the way that you view relapse could make all the difference in the success of your recovery. This doesn't only apply to substance use, but every form of addiction, whether it be gambling, pornography, even food. For some, this might be a lot different than how you've looked at what it is to slip up and use, to fall, or to fail. Is this the same as how we define relapse? Well, let's take a closer look. Just to put out a little disclaimer, obviously, we should avoid using at all costs. We should do whatever it takes to prevent relapse. But your mindset at the point, if and when you do slip up and use, is going to be a huge factor that determines whether you're going to continue using or whether you're going to get back up on the horse and keep moving forward. First, let's define what it means to truly relapse. So the term is typically used in reference to sliding back into a former state. When referencing a state of disease, it's defined as a deterioration in someone's state of health after a temporary improvement. Other ways to define relapse is the act or instance of backsliding, worsening, or subsiding. If we understand addiction or substance use disorder as a disease, our recovery is essentially a state of remission. If we see symptoms of that disease after a period of improvement, this could be considered a relapse in a sense. That's why some might say that we mentally relapse before we actually use. With that being said, for simplicity, we're just looking at the event of use itself today. And all definitions point to reverting to a former state, or even abandoning our recovery plan. That means a single slip-up or unplanned use, as bad as that could be, shouldn't be considered the same as a full relapse. It's better that we distinguish the two and use a different term like fall, slip-up, or stumble. Now, the chances of slipping up sometime in our recovery are pretty high. And I'll say it again, the best alternative is obviously to avoid using, period. Because for some of us, one use could be a matter of life or death. But in the case that we do fall, how we respond to that event is going to be a pivotal moment in our recovery. Your mindset after that slip-up is going to be the deciding factor to whether you choose to keep using or quickly recognize your mistake and keep moving forward in your recovery. Now let's take a look at the typical mindset when we do slip up. Most of us who have been counting the days, the months, or even years of clean time consider that relapse event as destroying their whole recovery. Whether we got a 30-day chip or we've been clean for 2 years, that fall is a failure that ruined all that progress. You literally have to start all over. Now, is that really the case? Well, we'll get back to that in a moment. But let's look at how that perspective affects our entire frame of mind. For one, all the optimism connected to the progress of our recovery instantly disappears. We feel like all that time and effort we poured into our sobriety has been in vain because in the end we still failed. It's daunting knowing that your perfect streak has been broken. You committed the cardinal sin, the thing that all of us have been trying to avoid. So now you become frustrated knowing that you're back to ground zero. Getting 1 day clean is going to be a task, never mind going back to 6 months or an entire year, or for some, even a couple years. We now experience feelings of failure and shame, isolation from those in our recovery circles. It might even lead to anxiety or depression and despair. How do you think this frame of mind is going to affect the immediate decisions you make in regard to either falling further into relapse or pressing forward in our recovery? First, if I consider my entire recovery progress as ruined, what's one more use? Whether or not I use again tomorrow, I'm still in the same boat. I still have zero clean time. It's not going to make much of a difference if I start back up tomorrow or the next day. Second, all of those feelings attached to failure, that mental and emotional state, put you in a bad headspace. That's why during our recovery, we work on addressing those feelings and getting to the root of our problem. Because until we do, we're still going to live with a lot of those, which in turn drive us to use. Remember, a lot of us have been self-medicating a lot of these same issues. And when we fully embrace this idea of total failure, we invite all of those feelings back. Lastly, to add to all that, we're already in a vulnerable state after getting the substance in our system. Being under the influence is obviously going to alter our further judgment. And whether you've used a depressant like alcohol or opiates or benzos, or even if you're coming down from a stimulant, you're still going to experience depression, anxiety, and often a feeling of hopelessness. So the next 24 to 48 hours after a slip-up is going to be the most critical for us to stay focused on our recovery progress. But how are we going to maintain focus on our recovery when we believe that our recovery has been ruined or come to a halt? If we tend to think about it this way, we literally pause our whole recovery mindset and feel like we can't continue our forward progress until we gain some more clean time again, when in fact, we should still be moving forward in our recovery. The way we view an unplanned use or slip-up in terms of relapse is really closely tied to how we view our recovery success. How do we define recovery success?